Okay, I gotta take a break from recording sound effects for the Halloween special. I wanted to take a moment and talk about a few of the horror comics that I've been reading. I like to wait and hold off reading most of my horror, suspense, thriller type books until September through November, my favorite time of year. So let's crack the spine on what's been keeping me awake at night. I want to start off with Michael Walsh's Silver Coin. It's being published by Image Comics and started last year. What I find so interesting about this book is that Michael Walsh is the illustrator and has teamed up with a revolving door of writers to create a sprawling mystery. The first book follows a band in 1978 who were down on their luck trying to find their sound, when instead they found a strange coin. I think it had belonged to the mother of the guitarist, but circumstances arise and he has to use the coin as a pick, and their music instantly improves, but at a cost. The coin seems to feed off of him in a way. Each gig, the guitarist got better and better, shredding harder and harder, like he was possessed. But he couldn't stop, he was on fire, literally. And after burning the house down, the only thing that remained was the silver coin. Each of these stories is set in a completely different time frame. The 1970s music scene, an early 90s summer camp, closer to the present day. Hell, the coin is still causing chaos in the distant future of 2467. In addition to illustrating, about every 5 books or so, Michael Walsh writes an issue that builds on a greater connected story. Also, because it's published by Image, there's a slight cameo appearance of Spawn in the 6th issue, which takes place in an arcade. I highly recommend checking out Silver Coin. Next, I'd like to talk about James Tynion. He had a divisive run on Batman, which is hard to really gauge his writing style off of that alone. I think that his style shines more within self-contained works like his DC vs. Vampire series, and Elseworld, where the Justice League finds itself in the middle of a vampiric outbreak that seems likely to claim them all. Even though I'd seen his name around a lot prior to this, it was DC vs. Vampires that really got me looking into Tynion's original work, like that of The Nice House on the Lake, a DC Black Label series wherein a man named Walter seemingly recruits several of his friends who some know each other and others are just loose acquaintances, but the main tie between them is Walter, who has invited them all to a week's vacation at a lake house. But things rapidly change when on the first night, the entire world comes to an end. An apocalyptic event that first strikes New York City, then ravishes the globe. The vacation isn't at all what it seemed, and neither is Walter, having gathered this select group of key individuals in hopes of riding out the event and rebuilding the world. With nowhere to go and no one else alive, will they rebuild, survive, and repopulate the earth? Or will the isolation drive them mad? Will they turn on each other? And who or what is Walter? And Tynion also has an ongoing series with Boom Studios called Something is Killing the Children, which started in 2019. It follows a character named Erica Slaughter, who is a demon-slaying monster hunter. She's got serious Elsa Bloodstone Buffy vibes, being that dangerous final girl who fights back trope that I honestly love. And the reason I think it's so interesting that Boom is publishing this is because they began a rebooted Buffy line in January of that same year, which I definitely plan to talk about in another video. But I do really love the world building of Something is Killing the Children, which is emphasized in its spin-off book, House of Slaughter. Check those out if you're interested. Next, I want to mention a book from a relatively new publisher called Artists, Writers, and Artisans, or AWA Studios. The book is Sacrament. This one's hard to describe. It's priests in space battling vampire demons or some crazy shit like that. It's fucking dope as fuck. In the year 3000, a disgraced excommunicated priest is called to a remote space colony to perform an exorcism, but things are wildly out of hand. Pick this up. Only a few issues are out, but this 5-issue miniseries should conclude by the end of the year. The last few books that I want to mention are from Vault Comics, which is also a relatively newcomer being formed in 2016 by brothers Damien and Adrian Wassel. They produce vividly beautiful fantasy, horror, and sci-fi comics. And they put out a book called Fearscape by Ryan O'Sullivan, Once a generation, an entity known as Muse comes to the greatest writer of the time and brings them into an alternate plane known as the Fearscape, where the writer's creative imagination and quick wit are used to battle horrendous forces of darkness. But what happens, dear reader, when Muse is tricked and the greatest writer of our time is a plagiarist? Will author Henry find what it takes to battle the monsters of Fearscape, or will he unleash its horrors into our world? Look for it and its second volume, A Dark Interlude, from Vault Comics. Another book being published by Vault is West of Sundown. This is an honorable mention for the list, as I've not really read too far into the series myself yet, but with themes like vampires in the Wild West and serious Dusk Till Dawn vibes, I'm interested. But I really don't have any opinions on the series yet. If you do, share them with us in the comments. I hope you find something on this list to keep you entertained this Halloween season. As much as I love Marvel and DC, it's nice getting to talk about other publishers for a change, especially small ones like AWA. All the books I've mentioned here are considered modern horror. If time permits, I'd love to make a follow-up video discussing some more classic horror comics, such as Ghosts, Creepy, and of course, the granddaddy of them all, Tales from the Crypt. So if that's more your speed, if you're more into classic horror comics or the history of horror comics, leave a comment and subscribe to be sure not to miss that video. Until next time, enjoy yourselves.
Could you take that out?
No.